The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Bumblefoot. Bumblefoot.
Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
They let us play with all our toys. They let us think that we're big boys. They let us make a lot of noise, but women rule the world. They let us think we're Superman.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. For you. I will stop till I reach the top just to be there with you.
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
Dad, you gotta stop haunting the ghost. It's scaring them.
All right, seriously, put down the pointy sticks.
Oh, the deeper I fall.
Okay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
The password is...
All right.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you.
Seriously, Dave? Really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hello, Toby. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, just please take your seat about there. We're with you. It's time for pickup. Start. 2, 1. Boost to ignition and lift off.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. It's good to have you along for the ride on this Wednesday, March 15th, Thursday, March 16th. If you're on the East Coast, we are live right here in Uncle Jimbo's cabin, right here in the Great White North, as we are here 7 nights a week. We welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on Revolution Radio. Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy, is the official man behind our music. Bumblefoot rocking us in and out of every single show to warm us up. Hey, if you're on social media and you want to give us a follow, go to Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We're also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. Also, if you head over to patreon.com, that's Patreon, patreon.com, we have some cool stuff for you there as well. So make sure you check that out. If you want to take part in this show, we do not take callers. So, you have to enter one of the chat rooms in order to get a question through. Type it in capital letters, either on Revolution Radio, on Spreaker, on the UPRN chat room, Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. We also have a brand new chat room at spacedoutradio.com where you can listen to the show and chat with our audience as well. Or if you're on Twitter, just like Deb, Rhonda, Les, God of Thunder, Jeff, you know who you are. Use the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. We'll get to you in there. If you enter our website for just $5 a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. We offer some pretty cool swag when you sign up and get your name entered into the monthly draws. We have a new news section called The Encounter Online that deals with everything paranormal, courtesy of our editors Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. You can check out my latest blog there as well. And if you've had an experience you can't explain, our researcher Mike Smith is ready for you. Fill out an SOR Sightlines report today. Hey, we love being live on WQEE 99 Rock the Key way down in Noonan, Georgia. That's where they film a very popular television show called The Walking Dead. Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. We love being live in the Vegas nights. We're also live in New Orleans on 100.7 FM. And their listeners on 160 countries around the world on the United Public Radio Network. We're also live on Revolution Radio. Remember, the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Tonight, we step into the paranormal realm as, believe it or not, we are listening to our American audience tonight. Kind of cool, eh? Because our American audience have told me many a time over the last number of months, when are you going to tell us some Canadian ghost stories? Frankly, I'm going to be honest, I've never really thought about it because, well, even though this is a Canadian show, literally 75% of our listening audience is in the U.S. So because most of our topics on the paranormal have been out of America, we decided to start a brand new monthly feature on SOR, which starts tonight. We're calling it Ghosts of the Great White North. So every month, I will be hanging out with a co-host here, Mike Morin, who's actually in studio beside me tonight. He's from the Canadian Paranormal Society, and together we will interview Canadian paranormal investigators from across the country to tell you about the haunted happenings north of the border. Tonight, we head to the center of the prairies, where in Saskatchewan, that could be a password around here, Saskatchewan, there's a great team called PAST, Paranormal and Supernatural Team. Allison and her husband Matt are two members who are highly involved in their province's ghost hunts. Tonight we will learn more about the couple, what got them involved in the paranormal, their trek to find out about the mystery of ghosts, and how haunted are the prairies. Allison and Matt, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. How are you?
Great.
Yeah, great. Thank you for having us on.
Absolutely, and I have Mike Morin from the Canadian Paranormal Society with me tonight. Mike, how are you?
I'm fantastic. It's nice to actually Uncle Jimbo's cabin while on the air.
I'm glad to actually be here, too, and you could tell, you know, it is quite a beautiful cabin around here.
Very beautiful.
Very finished.
I'm still speechless watching you multitask at your pre-show.
Absolutely. It is, you know, we kind of do a lot around here. I'm not going to lie, Allison and Matt. It's a little piece of heaven here. It really is. You know, we have one wall dedicated to what we're doing each month. We have another wall that's dedicated to literally my addiction to Guns N' Roses.
A wall of guitars behind us.
A wall of guitars behind us, and I know 6 guitars or 5 guitars, and I know 3 chords. How does that work? It's all about
11.
Exactly. How are you guys doing?
Doing great now that it's finally warming up.
Now, Matt, you're from the South, I believe. Am I correct? Like, you're from the southern U.S.
That is correct. You actually named Noonan, New Orleans, and all those places frequented throughout my life.
Interesting, man. So, how do you like the winters of Saskatchewan? That's a change of life, man.
Everybody keeps joking, saying that how I've acclimatized rather well, but it's just a front. I'm not acclimatized.
I've lived here my whole life, and I'm still not acclimatized.
How cold did it get this winter?
I think the coldest day we had was
minus 45.
Minus 45 plus the wind chill, though. Yeah. So minus in the 60s with the wind chill.
Ouch. Before wind chill here, the coldest it got here this winter was the coldest I've ever been in, because I'm in central British Columbia. And it
No.
Yeah, we got lots of snow. It's just finally starting to melt. And we got to minus 32, which is my new record. I'm happy with that.
At least we didn't do a ghost hunt this year, ghost investigation in minus 40 like we did last year. So I was happy about that.
I can see why. And you know, this is how much into the wilderness I live. Today we were going to be picking up some posters from the local newspaper because for our local museum here, I have started a charity event to help bring in funds for the museum. And I'm going to be putting on monthly paranormal investigations that the public can come to. They pay $20 a person, and we take about 20 people, and we go around the very haunted museum that is around here. And coincidentally, tonight, Mike and I, before we did the show here tonight to get into the studio, we actually were down at the museum checking out and letting all the spirits know what was going to be happening and coming up for the year, and that they're going to see a lot of strange people with weird machines that'll be coming out. We got a little bit of action from the ghosts tonight.
We did. We have it recorded. You had some action with the K2.
I did. It was a lot of fun. A little girl is in the house, and she loves to come out to play. I think she's only like 5 or 6, maybe 7 maximum. And she was just all over the place. Long story short, so we're going back there tomorrow night before the show. But this morning, we're driving into town to go to the local newspaper to pick up the advertising posters. And I live way out in the middle of the boonies here. And all of a sudden, everybody started slowing down on the highway because there's a moose grazing right on the side of the highway. So I'm pretty happy. I saw my second wild moose ever today. It was kind of cool.
Nice.
It was kind of cool. Well, we got to be Canadian on this show because that's what this show is about. Usually we're all talking USA and everything that's happening south of the border. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because that's where 75% of our audience is. But tonight, we get to do a little bit of Canadiana. You know, I almost wish we had Tim Hortons here.
That's a little too Canadian.
But it's worth it. It's worth it. Anyhow, tonight's show is about the paranormal in Canada. And Mike will be joining me as we start this brand new feature here on Spaced Out Radio called Ghosts of the Great White North. Mike will be joining me, not always from here in the studio, the lavish studios of Uncle Jimbo's cabin, but he'll be joining me from home. And one of the things that we are going to be discussing is going right across Canada with different paranormal teams, so that way our American paranormal researchers can learn a little bit more about the ghosts north of the border. Allison, you've been investigating a long time. How haunted, in your opinion, is Canada?
I mean, there's a huge amount of locations, and myself, I've only been able to investigate in Saskatchewan and a bit into Manitoba. Again, it's funding and time and that, because everything that we do comes out of our own pockets. So, but I mean, anytime I've traveled, you just come up with, you get the most amazing stories, and there's just some amazing places. I mean, you know, even into the Rockies and into BC where I've traveled, and, you know, I like to collect stories because, of course, this is what I love. So, for Western Canadian things, I've heard a lot of stories for Western Canada. I'm not so much schooled on the Eastern Canada, but again, a lot of people have watched the show Creepy Canada. Again, I mean, it was actually a really well done show, as it presented some really great ghost stories from across Canada. So I know they are on YouTube now, and I would highly recommend for people to check those out if they're interested in some ghost stories. It's not a investigative type of stories. They're more like documentaries on ghost stories.
Are you surprised, Allison, that across Canada, I have no idea how it is in Saskatchewan, but in British Columbia here, there's kind of two rules of thought. If you live in a smaller community like I do up here, people love the paranormal because, let's face it, I'm right along the Gold Rush Trail, and people know this place is haunted. And it's just one of those things that's not discussed. Yet, in a lot of parts of British Columbia, the paranormal is still quite a taboo subject. People don't want to talk about it. They don't want to admit it. Their immediate reaction is always like, "Oh, come on, you don't believe in that stuff, do you?" And then, "Well, yeah, I do." And then you start wearing down people, and then you get, "Well, there was that one time when
there's always
I was a
that
kid."
comment, the one time.
It's always that one time. How is it in Saskatchewan? Is it any different?
It seems like here it's a little bit more open, actually. I like to compare it to the South, where I'm from. It just seems like you can just spark up a conversation and everybody's got a tale and a story.
The one thing I would like to add to that, though, is that when we do investigate in a small town location, sometimes people are a little bit guarded about talking about ghosts, because a lot of times the ghosts that they're talking about are people that they actually knew at one point in time.
True.
So I know there's one location that we do and have done quite frequently here, and you say that you've encountered a ghost and it could have been of this such and such person. We usually kind of keep names on the down low because some people are like, well, that's my cousin or that's my uncle, and it tends to offend some people. So that's my experience on that. You too, sweetheart.
Yeah, same thing.
Matt, you're obviously from the United States. Did you expect when you came across the border that Canada would be, or in Saskatchewan particularly, would be as haunted as it is? Did it catch you off guard, or was it just, well, that's just the way it is? There's ghosts everywhere.
Actually, it seems like every single day I catch something that surprises me. I have a long, I guess you'll say, I've been in the paranormal since I was in '85, but it ranges anywhere from the mysticism and the occult to electrical engineering, and is my background. But it's just literally every day it's something new. I run into someone with a different story, and people, the people I've talked to just on the street seems to be more open. Not at all what I'm used to, because you're in the South, you have to be a little bit more guarded about some things that you say.
So has it been, Matt, for you, a little bit of an eye-opener that, usually the ghost stories in Canada, like, they're town folklore, they're town legends, they're just some things you just don't speak about, or you maybe just say, I don't want that getting out in the public. You don't need to hear about that. Were you very open, or the people that you talked to when you moved up here, were they very open with everything that you wanted to discuss with them in regards to the paranormal?
When I first got up here, a lot of people were guarded because I wasn't from the area. I was an outsider, and in that aspect, a lot of people were pretty guarded against talking to me. But things have changed, and a lot of people will reach out to me and talk about more things they probably wouldn't discuss, to even the other people in their towns.
So, Allison, how did you get hooked up with this American paranormal investigator?
I actually had taken a trip down to New Orleans, and I was at an event, and, just other people who are also into the paranormal in all different ways, and I had met Matt then, just friends, just talked, and a few months later, I think I was hitting up people that I'd met down there, and just to have someone to talk to, and met up with him on Facebook, and we just continued talking, and it was, it just, one thing led to another. He was extremely interested in the ghost amp and what I was doing with that, because, again, he's an electronics engineer, so, that was, something like, oh, you've designed this ghost amp, and he kind of thought that was interesting, and, I told him that I was into investigation, and we just had a lot in common with the paranormal, and so that's kind of how it started, and, finally I just said, I have a daughter up here, and I can't leave her, but would you consider being with me up here in Canada? And he said yes, and he moved his entire life to be with me.
Aw, that's romantic. We got tissues out now.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy, something pretty crazy to happen, but it's been amazing to, be with somebody who is so supportive of all your ideas, and, I can, before we're going to bed at night, we could talk about theoretical physics, or we could talk about Hermeticism, or, just so many different things, religion, occult, sciences, and, we bring all of that into investigation. It's, it's not just metaphysics. We bring sciences and theories into everything. So it is incredible to have somebody just to bounce ideas off that, doesn't think you're crazy or talking silly or anything like that. So, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Matt, question for you. Being an engineer, do you make your own gear?
Most of it, yes. I took, with her idea, the ghost amp, which I thought was a brilliant idea, but there's theory behind, just giving you a brief example. Let's say, for example, that, after a thunderstorm, you always had that increased activity. So what I did is I created we'll call it, what was it? Our team lead calls it the ghost amp.
Ghost Taser?
No, the Go and Red Bull or something like that. But anyway, it basically generates the same ion field that, the lightning strikes do. So it's basically Allison's idea, and we just amplified it. And it creates that same ion field that lightning strikes do. So you have that same static charge in the air, sticking with the DC voltage.
Interesting. So did you say it's an app, or did you actually physically make one?
Oh, no, I physically made it. It doesn't interfere with any equipment or anything like that. It's sitting actually less than 10 feet from me right now.
We actually do have videos of it on the past Facebook page, and it goes into more depth about, Matt will explain, what he's built, and there's also a great video of Matt and Corey touching it.
Yeah, not our brightest moment.
When it comes to technology, Matt, and I'll go back to you here for a second, and let's focus on technology for a few minutes here, because I think every ghost ghost hunting group does things different. There's some that rely more on the spiritual sense. There's others that absolutely believe that we need to be way more modified in trying to prove what is out there. You've been doing this a long time. You've seen technology come and go. Do you believe that the technology is grossly overvalued at this time in the paranormal field, or do you think that it's just the beginning, that the technology is really starting to lead to some quality information?
I think you're a little bit of both, because ultimately the best tool that we ever have is ourselves. That is the best tool. But if you're looking for validation of evidence, that's when the equipment should come into play. Because it's, I can get the sensation someone's standing behind me, but until I turn around, I can't see them. But, the same concept with doing the paranormal research is I want to use a location. I go in there and I just knew something was behind me, so I activated this remote device that I have. So instead of me physically turning around, I want to validate it and, start taking snapshots behind me, also taking readings, because I want to disprove that I have high EMF fields and, things like that. So, yeah, I think our technologies, everybody's starting to think along the same way. We need the better validations. And I think the technologies will increase in that field, but at the same time, it's got to go along with the greatest tool, ourselves.
Well, and that brings up the next question. Do you think natural technology, in other words, ourselves, is a forgotten art?
Yes, it is. I do. I think a lot of people get so wrapped up into the gadgets and gizmos. And I'm going to mention the ghost amp again. Allison's ghost amp is, a lot of people didn't like it because it didn't have blinking lights and gauges, and
it didn't talk to you.
It didn't talk to you, or honk a horn. I don't know, but the thing is a lot of people want all the blinky lights, and what my simplest device is, and you notice when you get a K2 spike, and then you might get all of a sudden you start picking up EVP or something like that. So my theory is that, okay, let's take the electromagnetic field out of it, and let's just go with a magnetic field. So I created a pendulum, a standalone pendulum on a wooden base using lodestone, which is a great natural magnet. Once again, we go to the natural concept. And, what we do is challenge it to move it, because it's a lot easier for them to move that if our K2s are responding to a magnetic field, because K2s will also pick up a regular magnetic field. So, and we've gotten some positive results on that. Mm-hmm. So it's one of the simplest tools that we have that I put together that doesn't have all these blinky lights and computer technology.
So let's get to the human side of things here for a few minutes here, because we are becoming so reliant on technology. Whether it's the laser grids, whether it's FLIR cameras, whether it's something as simplistic as a K2. Do you feel then that any ghost hunter, rookie or been doing it for a while, should really just maybe once in a while put the gear down and just go by feel? Use your senses.
Yes, absolutely. When we went to Ninette Sanatorium, I was the first one in the building onto the third floor, which is supposed to have been one of the most haunted. And the only thing I carried with me was a camera. No additional equipment, no nothing. I just walked around, introduced myself, and just got a feel for the place. And I think that's the most important thing. However, I came back in later on with equipment in the areas that I felt, just for some form of validation.
Mm-hmm.
Allison, how do you feel about the whole technology versus personal feel on an investigation?
Again, I'm definitely evolved in my investigation skills. Before, I would just kind of completely shut down and really would, look more to the tech. And now that I just feel, I guess, so much more comfortable in these extremely creepy situations, I guess. I don't really find it that creepy anymore, but I kind of do the same thing now. I'll go in there. I will try to feel, open myself up a bit more, as and to feel what could be there, and use the equipment to help further that. Again, when we set up the ghost stamps, a lot of places where we decide to set up a ghost stamp is usually where there's been the most activity, where people have experienced the most activity. It wasn't necessarily where they had caught any evidence on camera or anything like that. It was more of, what they felt. And again, too, if you listen to the people and their experiences and what they've gone through, a lot of times you get that personal validation when you're in those areas because you are feeling the same thing that they're feeling. And so I definitely think that's important, to listen to your client or whoever, that has had their experience in that location, and, make a mental note of what you're feeling. And a lot of times, even on camera now, not just because we do film a show for Access 7 here in Regina, I always make a note of how I'm feeling. So, because also, we might not be catching evidence in the moment, but later on when I go to review, I might say, oh, something feels cold on my shoulder, and then all of a sudden I get an EVP. So again, it's kind of it's a little bit of both. It's for validation with equipment, but also on a personal level as well.
Can I add something in there? Is this an afterthought? I think people get so wrapped up in tech, especially newer people, because they want to use it as a security blanket.
Yes.
I've actually seen people point K2s at where they hear a noise, almost like it's a taser, and they're going to tase a ghost. So, but, just in that observation and just based on this discussion, I'm wondering if sometimes people get so wrapped up in tech that they almost use it as a security blanket because they're going into this spooky area.
Like a shield.
Yeah.
A lot of teams out there, and this has been my pet peeve with the paranormal, a lot of teams out there don't seem to have any sort of focus on why they are investigating. There's a lot of teams out there, they want the rush, or they feel they need to debunk everything, they need to destroy people's experiences because they're not doing society any good, trying to hold on to this hokey crap that we call the paranormal, or whatever they are trying to do. Maybe it's just a cheap thrill that they are looking for. I'm not saying all the groups out there, but I would say it's a good 15 to 20%. It doesn't matter if you're in Canada or the United States or anywhere in the world investigating the paranormal. When you guys are with PAST, what do you do in order to claim your own reality for what you are investigating? What are you trying to prove?
Well, it's not necessarily trying to prove. It's more of just a validation of claims and getting evidence for them. Because most of the time, people are not wanting, to it debunked. They just want that validation. I mean, I've debunked a couple of locations, but I never relieved. It's the same notion, but it's just, people just want answers, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do, is just find answers. Why, who is it? Because we do a lot of history research, because the Plains is chock full of history. And so if we go into a location, we do our preliminary history. Then when we get the evidence, we try to do some cross-referencing history, so we can give that to the person that asked us to come out. And it's more of an answer-finding, a fact-finding mission. And a lot of people, it doesn't matter if it's ridiculously haunted. They're just ecstatic over the facts that they get.
Got a couple questions for you from our audience. And let's get to Mike's question in the Space Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. He is asking, have you ever investigated the old church at the Stanley Mission in Saskatchewan? If so, did you get any info?
Nope, we haven't done that location as of yet. So sorry about that.
Apparently it's a good one. It's a Canadian heritage site. You have to take a boat to get there, and he says it is one weird energy type of place.
That sounds like my cup of tea.
Okay, it's on the bucket list now.
Yeah.
Write that down.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to another question here. This one comes from Eric in the SOR Space Travelers Club. He is asking, a lot of teams out there, before they go into an investigation, they smudge, they protect themselves with prayer or something along those lines. Is that something you guys do? And if so, what do you use? If not, why don't you?
Okay, that falls under my category, because usually I take care of all the forms of protections and the things along those lines, but, and this is where me personally, I think, and this is my personal belief, I want to, not for the team, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, it's my personal belief, is that when you're going through these, I want to protect myself and all this other stuff, you're stepping into a case if you're already afraid before you walk into the dark. And once you're that afraid, you're carrying that energy, you're drawing things to you. And I've had this discussion with the team, and yeah, I have made seals based on their own personal beliefs, as protection amulets. I've made them traditionally, and things like that. I do carry my, I'm making the quotation marks in the air, my bag, which I make my own incense blends. We do have someone on the team who's First Nations, and she does do smudging if requested. But for the most part, and it really depends on also the location. If we're going to a First Nation location, I usually, if I burn anything, it's out of respect initially. If you show respect, doesn't matter if I'm coming into your home, I'm going to show you respect. And so as far as the protection and the smudging and things like that, it's a case-by-case scenario, and it's based on individual beliefs. But stepping into a location, announcing that you're afraid to begin with, it's not generally a good idea.
I know Mike here from the Canadian Paranormal Society. They are big on the smudging, and one of their members who hangs out with them, Derek White Sky Cloud, he is obviously First Nations, and he protects their group. But Mike, you guys had a scenario in Quesnel here in British Columbia where you were going to investigate the museum where Mandy the Haunted Doll was.
Yes. And
you guys got so excited to get in there, you forgot to do your prayers of protection before going in. Tell us about that story.
Yeah, we did. Usually, like clockwork before every investigation, my personal is I like to smudge. I like to smudge anyone that's going to be on an investigation with us, more as a cleansing, because don't want to be bringing in negative energy into investigations, which could trigger things as well. But we didn't do it that night because we're like, we're going to go see the haunted doll. Let's just go fast. And our guy Glenn, he was sitting there looking at the doll, and then he was in a trance for a good, how many minutes did he say, like 10 minutes? We couldn't get him to come to. He wasn't even blinking. He was just staring at the doll. And then he got violently ill and had to run outside and lose his dinner. Yeah, that's one of the few times we didn't smudge before. So that was a lesson learned where we cleanse ourselves before investigations for protection.
definitely sometimes you have to learn the hard way. Allison or Matt, have you ever had any of your teammates have to learn the hard way the importance of smudging or protection before an investigation?
I'm going to have to answer as a yes, but usually the residues is what I take care of. We had the team lead, Corey, had a situation where something decided to follow him home, and did the whole pulling on the foot when he's trying to sleep. It wasn't negative. He didn't feel threatened in any shape, fashion, or form. He just made that phone call to me saying, "Okay, this thing's starting to get annoying. Can you help me out?" And just took care of that for him. And that's the thing is, and we had another team member that also had a similar scenario, and was more of a felt like something was following him. So, and also at the same notion, taking care of that. So.
You mentioned earlier that a lot of these younger groups are very technologically savvy. They rely on technology probably a little too much, Matt. Do you think that comes with smudging too, that as much as they rely on technology, they're probably not giving enough credence to any sort of smudging or protection, so that way they don't have that opportunity to make sure that they're not going home with some sort of spirit attachment?
I think it's up to their individual beliefs, because if my faith does not back up the smudging, and if I'm not believing into it, because we empower these things, also in the environment, if I'm going into an environment that's, I'm trying to come up with the wording here, but let's say, like, if the household has always, for generation, been Roman Catholic, and I'm sitting here smudging, and they're going to just wonder what that weird smoke smell is. So I would want to do something that pertains to that location, and as well as, to the beliefs. But, but yes, I agree. I think the younger generation is looking for the latest app that will help cleanse the area.
Do you feel a lot of the new generation, aging myself, new generation ghost hunters are more looking for the scare rather than the evidence?
Yes, it's more of the thrill. We got a location here. I don't want to give its name away. Everybody knows it in the area. They just don't want any more people climbing the fences and everything. But people go in there and do their ghost hunts, and mostly for the rush, the scare of it. And, of course, they're trespassing on top of that, so they get that multiple thrill. So, I'm not going to say all, but I'm going to say, because I think some are allured, by what they see on TV and whatnot, but at the same time, I think they're looking for the proverbial spectral roller coaster.
Allison, you've been in the area for a while investigating, and you've seen a lot of paranormal investigators come and go, because for some this is a fad, for others it's a passion of learning. When you have new investigators come up to you and ask you, how you do it, why you're involved, how can they be more like you, how do you talk to them about that? How do you answer those type of questions when somebody is trying to gain information on the way you ghost hunt?
What I've learned over the years is from, reading. I have watched many documentaries. I have watched the ghost shows. And it's just really, personal for what I do. For the most part, I like to stress respect. I'm a person that believes that spirit should be treated with the same amount of respect as somebody in a matter body, because let's face it. Some of these spirits might never have been human, but I have no idea why some investigators believe that because the spirit isn't in a physical body that they're, any less important or they matter any less. So for me, and, to help somebody wanting to get into the paranormal field, I would tell them, you need to do this with a lot of respect. And also, you have to be open-minded, and, not only respectful of spirit, but respectful of where you are, respectful of other people that you're with. Also, educate yourself. Look, not only, look into the technology. I think it's really cool. I have been seeing a lot more posts on Facebook with women getting into the technology side of things. I'm still learning a lot. When I started the idea of Ghost Amp, I knew nothing about electronics. The first thing I went to was a friend at the time who was an electronics engineer, and I just said, when a battery drains, what does it give off? I knew nothing. And I went from that to actually making the Ghost Amp. I had to learn how to make electronics. So to me, it's like, don't be afraid to try new theories. Don't be afraid to, test out an idea. At times we have ran a sleepover that we do at a haunted location here in Saskatchewan, at a haunted hotel we've been to many times. We have a very good rapport with the owner as well as the spirit living there. I love how you said you went in there and introduced yourself to spirit and said, hey, there's going to be people here and they're going to have, electronics and all these things, because we did the exact same thing. And then every time we go back there, I'd say, hi, we're back, and it's nice to see you again. And, it was just like going into somebody else's house. And so the cool part about doing these sleepovers was, there's these people that would come on these haunted tours, and we got to, they'd never experienced anything like that before. But we got to show them what we did, show them that we were professional, that we respected where we were and who we were with. We respected each other's ideas. If somebody said they wanted to, lay on the floor and put a blanket over their face and, do some type of crazy test, you know what? Go for it. If that's something you need to try and to see if you get, results from, we're totally up for trying anything. But again, it was really, really cool doing these sleepovers because, helping mentor people or, people saying, oh, this is so cool, I really want to, learn how to ghost hunt and start doing this. Well, it gives a good foundation. We gave them, they got to try all the tech. They got to try, we got them holding cameras. We got them using the tech. We got them walking around, talking and investigating like we would do on an investigation. Excuse me. So, unfortunately, we don't have the tours right now. The building that we were in, it has been shut down right now. But in the future, it's something we definitely want to do, and we're definitely an educating team. We get asked to do educational, like a talk. We go and talk to people at the Cosmos Center in Regina, which is for people who have different types of mental challenges. They're amazing. They love us coming out, and they love learning. And again, it's really awesome opportunity to be able to educate people.
I think that's fantastic, the way you try and get the public involved. And I know I'm doing the exact same thing up here with doing our monthly ghost hunts that start April 8th at the local museum, because the more people we can get educated on this topic, the more these certain sites, maybe it's a museum, maybe it's an old tavern, maybe it's someone's home, that they can be protected and they know what's going on. That way they don't have to live in any sort of fear of any type of experience. Would you agree, Allison?
Absolutely. And also to bring up another valid point is, we get contacted all the time by people saying, "Oh, my house is haunted," or "I have a demon here," or, they're losing their minds because they're terrified, and understandably, if you're completely terrified of what's going on, we actually, most of the time we can't just drop everything and go, but sometimes we do. And but if we can't, we usually tell people, keep a journal, keep a voice recorder on. If you have a camera, set up a camera overnight on these hot spots in your house. And sometimes it really does help that person because they feel like they're being proactive finally. Like they don't feel like they're being victims. They're being more proactive in finding out answers in their house. And again, if they catch any evidence, like we were just at a couple's house, I think last week, and this lady had captured a ton of evidence, on her camera and on her phone. And who knows if it's 100% valid, but because we don't, we weren't there to test anything out, but it was extremely proactive. It's going to help us, and because of it, we are going to investigate her place because, there's just some things that I couldn't really explain with what she had caught. But again, we tell her, please, keep a journal, keep, stories that you remember, write them down, write everything down. And so that's, something that we are definitely doing with potential clients or people that approach us.
Are there a lot of haunted homes in the area? Are there a lot of haunted sites in Saskatchewan?
I actually have a question to add to that. Have you guys ever done any of the old battle sites like Batoche and that? Or like the Northwest Rebellion area?
There's a paranormal group up there called Knights of the Dark, and they've don't know that for a fact, but more than likely they have, because anything in that area they usually have it pretty much so blanketed.
Is Saskatchewan quite haunted, though?
It is full of tales of hauntings. We've done several locations, and like I said, there's a few that we've been able to debunk and explain to them. To give you a simple, on one location, it was 8,000 milligauss, radiating where they were getting all their apparitions. But the locations that we have, and my favorite is the German Club, where in Regina, and it's at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, can we just go? This is so boring. And it turns out that we got so much evidence we had to go back. So yeah, there's all their claims were valid, and so it seems like I will say 80% of the locations we've investigated have been legitimately haunted.
We only have about 2.5 minutes before we got to go to our first break of the night. When you, Allison, started investigating in Saskatchewan, what got you into this field? What made you decide that this was something you needed to investigate as a lifelong passion?
I guess my dad was a huge influence. He was always interested in the paranormal. He would take us out to this one farmhouse and tell us a story, about a gentleman who had committed suicide, and the house was left, and his widow was haunting it, and he'd tell me all these tales, like Matt said, a lot of stories, which has always sparked my imagination. And I also credit it to a friend of mine. Her mom was definitely, into metaphysics and definitely into paranormal things. And one of her very best friends was Dr. Buddy Wynn, who was the paranormal parapsychologist here at the University of Regina for many years. And before we'd be tucked into our beds in a turn-of-the-century farmhouse, he would tell us real ghost stories. So, that sparked my imagination. We've had UFO sightings and landings in the area. And my dad was a huge Von Daniken fan, and, he had the books around all the time. I always joke that, some dads would, hide their Playboys in the closet. And my dad hid his Von Daniken books in the closet, and I found them, and I was like, what is this, Dad? And so excited. But, my dad, friends, just my own, personal history, gathering stories from the area, all that contributed to it. So when I was able to meet up with the first team I was on, my first investigation was at haunted school on a First Nations property. So that was amazing. And just from then on, it was, I developed the ghost amp and then joined up with the past team.
On that note, we're going to hop out of here to take our first break of the night. Spaced Out Radio presenting Ghosts of the Great White North here on Wednesday the 15th. This will be a monthly feature every month, the third Wednesday of the month. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. We'll be back right after this.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, they're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
The third Monday of every month, Spaced Out Radio is going to bring you a different look at everything paranormal. Welcome to The Reporters. Jim Mallard, Vanessa Hogel, Denise Garcia, and Christina George join me, Dave Scott, for a look at the weird and strange from the other side of the microphone. We'll break down ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and the people investigating them. The paranormal media has never been heard like this. Come listen to The Reporters.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spaceoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Hey, this is Canadian paranormal investigator Mike Morin. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you along to check out this show. Tomorrow night on the program, Jamie Sexton is going to join us. We're going to talk about music, entertainment, and the conspiracy that revolves around. And not conspiracy about the music or the entertainment, but what goes on behind the scenes. It's going to be interesting. Jamie's going to be a monthly guest on this program, and we will get into it tomorrow night at spacedoutradio.com, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Hey, we want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia. We are also live on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. We're live in Las Vegas on Renegade Talk Radio. And we are also live on Revolution Radio. Remember, the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Ectomonomania. I know I said that wrong. Ecdemomania. Ecdemomania would be your password. So make sure you use that wisely, space travelers. That's just the way it is. Hey, we want to welcome you on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to chat with me during the show as well. You can also give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can tune us in on TuneIn, download this show and others on iTunes. We're also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, we have a plethora of features for you to check out, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. And with that, we're also on Patreon.com. Go to Patreon.com to become a Spaced Out Radio patron today. Today we are talking with Allison and Matt. They are part of a Saskatchewan paranormal group called PAST. I am also joined by Mike Morin from the Canadian Paranormal Society. And we are talking about a feature that we have started on this show called Ghosts of the Great White North, to introduce our American listeners and listeners from around the world to the ghosts of Canada. Welcome back, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Good to have you with us. Thank you so much. You know, now, I know for a lot of listeners, I do want to get this out there. Those who are listening live right now, we seem to be having an issue with the sound. I am aware of it. You do not have to continually hit me up for the technical errors that are happening. There is absolutely nothing I can do on this end during the show. Nothing. The only thing I could do is shut down everything and restart. That's not going to help anything. We are aware of the programs. We know this is a couple nights in a row where this is happening, so please bear with me. Please bear with the show. We're trying to clean up the glitch, and I can't do anything during the show. I just can't. I have an interview to run. I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but please, I am aware of it. Thank you. So we do have that out of the way. Let's continue on with Ghosts of the Great White North. And one of the things that I wanted to do with this show, and the reason why I brought you guys on, was because, like I said earlier in the beginning, in hour number one, that a lot of our American listeners, and our audience is 75% American, do not really know about a lot of the spirits that are here in Canada. That goes a lot along the lines with the history involved, Mike. You with Canadian Paranormal Society, as well as with Chronicles of the Unknown, you guys have delved a lot into the history of what built the west coast of Canada. And Allison and Matt, we'll get to your opinion next in the Saskatchewan area. But Mike, maybe you talk a little bit about how historic a lot of these hauntings are.
They are. A lot of people, especially up here, they don't link history with the paranormal. They do it more so in the States. Like, for example, if you use Deadwood or Tombstone, those are paranormal hotspots. When we have the same sort of places up here, like 108 Mile Ranch, Barkerville, Cottonwood, Hat Creek Ranch, O'Keefe's Ranch, I can keep going. All the same sort of towns as all those old they are gold rush towns up here, and they were down there. It's good to explore them and link the history with the paranormal.
Mm-hmm. So, Allison, as you look at the history of Saskatchewan, is it pretty much the same regarding the paranormal as well? That the paranormal really tells the story about how the province was created?
I could actually give you let's say, three really good examples. There's actually, it's called Fort Qu'Appelle, and it's a town on Qu'Appelle Lake. And, for anyone who is bilingual in French, of course, Canada has two languages officially, and Qu'Appelle means, to call, and the name of the town and the area was actually named after a ghost story. And it's because apparently I could be totally telling this wrong, and I apologize if I make a mistake, but apparently there was a First Nations couple, and her husband had died. I think maybe his canoe rolled over, or he, got killed and died, but she could still hear his voice calling across the lake. So it's called like the Calling Lake, Qu'Appelle. Another great story, again, settlers coming to Saskatchewan. We had a huge influx of German, Ukrainian, so Eastern European, Western European, and then spotting of, people from China, from Asia. So a huge fluctuation of immigrants coming in. They came in, they actually did, a lot of them did really, really well with business. There is an amazing house in Moose Jaw, and this gentleman had built this enormously beautiful house. I can't really remember what he did for a living, and started his business and was quite successful. Anyway, they ended up passing away, and the lady that lived in the house, Mrs. Hopkins, she still haunts the house, and it's now turned into a beautiful restaurant. And I personally had an experience with Mrs. Hopkins. I was there at the time with my ex-husband. We had just come in to go for supper, and we were met at the bottom of the stairs by a girl just, wearing a black skirt and a white top and tights. And she said, "Oh, okay, well, where would you like to sit?" So, okay, let's sit upstairs. You could either sit downstairs. It was kind of a bar area, or you could sit up on the second level. And so I was directly behind her, and my ex-husband was behind me, and I was following her up the stairs. And as I'm following her up the stairs, I keep walking, and all of a sudden I hear somebody, they're calling my name from across the room. And I ended up walking into, it was kind of like a little small room that was being used as a prep area. And then I realized that I wasn't then I looked at the waitress and thinking, okay, no, this isn't the same person. This is a totally different person that I was following, because who I was looking at was a lady with a long black skirt and a blouse with her hair back in a bun. And our waitress was, with a short skirt, tights, white blouse, and, kind of a short, cropped hairstyle. And so, and then she just kind of jokingly said, "Oh, well, you must have been following the ghost." And I kind of laughed, and we went and sat down. And on their menus, there was actually a story about Mrs. Hopkins and how she haunts that residence still. Another one is we have the sanatoriums, and the sanatoriums were put up because of we had huge outbreaks of tuberculosis in Saskatchewan. I'm sure was all over North America, I'm assuming, but we had huge problem with tuberculosis back in I guess it would have been the turn of the century or just before the turn of the century. And so they set up these sanatoriums in different areas. There's a place that's not too far from Fort Qu'Appelle, and it's in a little town of, it's called Le Bret. And there's a house that's not too far from Le Bret, and there was a doctor that lived in this house, and his wife was also helped out in the medical field. They ended up turning their house into kind of a sanctuary for people with tuberculosis, and they cared for these people there quite a bit, until they passed on or got better. And so anyway, fast forward into the future, the house sold. Actually, the Boy Scouts ended up buying the building. I went out there for an event. They were doing like a pig roast and all these things, and I get to the actual house, and I walk up, and there was a bonfire outside. People were sitting around, and so I went to talk to some of these people that I knew, and then all of a sudden someone says, "Oh, look, on the second floor, there she is." I said, "Well, who's up there? Who's up there?" They're like, "No, it's the ghost." And I'm like, "Okay," laugh, laugh, laugh. And I look up, and I could see like a silhouette of a lady in a long dress with a light behind her. And, of course, a lot of people are at this event. It was kind of like a medieval-style event, so people were wearing these long dresses, and I'm thinking someone's just in the upstairs window. And so I eventually decided I was going to go into the actual house and see if they needed help with anything. And when I walked in the door, I immediately figured it out. There's absolutely no way that there could be a lady in the window because the whole second floor of the building had been demolished out. There was no stairs. There's nothing there. So this person would have had to have been hovering in the second floor window. So, again, with the history, we've had, again, this quite a famous sanatorium. And again, most of these stories are southern Saskatchewan. I'm not as well schooled with northern Saskatchewan and haven't had as many opportunities up there, but I'd like to go. But again, these sanatoriums, there's one that's called, well, I guess I could say it, Fort Sound. It's quite, apparently quite haunted, but again, a place that's quite dangerous to go into now, and people have really violated the trust of the people who own it now, and they've completely shut it down to any type of paranormal investigation, and, it's trespassing to be on that property. And then we were also at the sanatorium in Manitoba, but I don't know if you want me to get outside the province, but again, the history, it all relates.
And the history is important, Matt. I mean, you come from a couple of old towns in the south where, you might be a little bit more familiar with this because the United States is considered, it relatively is, much older than Canada is. So when you are able to tell the history through the paranormal, Matt, do you find any difference from investigating like you did in your days in the United States comparatively the same to the way it is here in Canada, or is there any difference whatsoever?
I mean, as far as technique or trying to find locations?
More so regarding the history. That's what I'm interested in right now.
Well, I'm going to say because I'm still learning the history from my perspective, of course it was easier for me down there because, like in the New Orleans area and Louisiana and Alabama area where I grew up, and even in the Mississippi area, it seems like every time you turn around, you could find a location. And it just seemed up here, there's a lot of locations, but you may have more reservations more people may have more reservations to allow you to go into it. So you have to do a lot of digging on the history, whereas down in the south, you you just got to stand still and everybody will tell you the history, because, everybody likes to tell the old southern tales down there.
I know that even myself being, down to New Orleans quite a few times, their ghost is their pride. Their ghost is their celebrity, and it's amazing. Like, just an example, like Oak Alley Plantation, hugely popular on movies, and you go there and they talk about their ghosts, and it's a part of their history, but pride, and also it is like a celebrity, and everybody knows a location by their ghost almost.
And that's the big fun part about this, is finding those ghosts that are willing to tell a story. So how communicative are the spirits of Saskatchewan in telling the history of what is keeping them here?
Well, so far, what I've encountered, as far as what I've encountered, I'm going to have to say it seems a little less communicative than what I'm used to. We get a lot of evidence, we get a lot of information, but as far as the full story, so sometimes there's some assumptions that come into play. And I'll give you a prime example. There was a church, gorgeous cathedral, and that was referring to her negative 40 investigation. But we kept getting the same word over and over and over in EVP and Ghost Box, and it doesn't matter what you used, you got the same name over and over, which was Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we did some history, and there was never a Patrick there. But it turns out it wasn't until after, even digging more, because I'm one of these people that just doesn't like to give up. I want to find out why. And it turns out, didn't even think about it, but the crest of the church is the St. Patrick's crest. And before it was a church, it was a school, boarding school, and that's what they said. Every morning they would say the St. Patrick crest statement. So, there's your story there, and you start digging into it, and you end up getting more information,
And that's what I love about this, is when you get those spirits that are willing to communicate to tell you the history of it. Whether it's on an EVP, whether it's on video, whether you catch something on a digital voice recorder, or wherever it is. It's a lot of fun. I'll give you an example. Tonight, we were going through the museum just to tell them what's coming up here. And we were up in the caretaker's bedroom of the house. And there's a wall in between the museum house and the caretaker's house. And the bedroom wall for the caretaker happens to be directly behind this little girl's room. And this little girl in the house, she is extremely active. And we had about a, 15-minute, 20-minute conversation with her?
Yeah, 15 at least.
And at the end, when we said we were going, right before we left, she was just gone for about 5 minutes. And we said we were going to start walking down the hallway to get to the stairs, and I just said, and I have a K2 meter in my hand, I said, I'm going to put my hand out. Would you like to hold my hand so I don't fall down the stairs? Next thing you know, that K2 meter has gone straight red. And it held there. And I could feel a little bit of coldness on my fingers, like she was actually holding my hand.
And we got a few yes-no questions when we were asking, can we come back tomorrow? Is it okay if we come back tomorrow? And every time we asked a question, there's a spike. It's interesting today.
And that's the fun and the beauty of it, because that's how we take these little pieces, Allison, and we glue them together to see what the story really is. It's like a puzzle that we're all putting together. Do you enjoy that part of the hunt?
Absolutely. I know one of the questions that one of us always ends up asking is, we're here to tell your story.
Mm-hmm.
And, whether we get a response or not, again, I think that is a huge respect thing. We're not here to exploit you. We're here to tell your story. We're here to communicate. And yeah, we have got those pieces of the puzzle. Just even more recently, too, have really found a lot of interest in the First Nations cultures here and the stories. And we had a huge honor of being out last year at the Cowessess First Nation. How far is it away? Like 2 hours outside of Regina?
Yeah, it's about 2 hours, I think.
Yeah, and it was such a cool thing because we all got out there and we had this huge feeling of just like, this place is amazing, it's wonderful, it's beautiful. And, we heard the stories. And, one of the stories I love to tell was the bear story.
Well, don't hold back. I got to hear this. What's about the bear story here?
Okay, we're doing a session down in the basement area, and Corey, our team lead, we carry this trailer to act as a command center, and where we do on-the-spot reviewing. And he's in there, and now mind you, this location is along well-known bear migration trail and everything else. And anyway, so I'm down there and I'm like, can you make yourself present? Yeah, can you make yourself known? Can you, speak out? Can you say something? And I said, can you make a noise? And I said, yeah, give us some sign that you're here. I said, and all of a sudden, you hear something on, because we had multiple things going, but the ghost box just suddenly, just clear as day, says something, something to the effect of big. And I said, and I didn't hear it at the time, but I said, can you do me a favor? Make it big. Make it really, really big. And then this time we all hear it just plain as day. You hear it just come out and says big, really loud. At the same point in time, Corey is in the trailer, and he's got the back of the trailer kind of propped open because it was really hot. And he starts hearing this snorting sound around the back of the trailer, and he goes, oh, dear God, a bear has come up on me. So he's trying to evaluate how fast he can get out of the trailer, and, if the bear pulls the door down, because he hears it scratching outside, pacing back and forth, and he is in an absolute panic. So all he can figure is, if it pulls down the door and comes in, he's going to run out the side door, latch it shut the back up, and then come inside and apologize to me because it's my trailer. So he ends up making a break for it, and when he runs around the trailer and realizes there's nothing there, absolutely nothing. So now he's mad that, A, he didn't have a camera on, and now he starts thinking maybe, because I do pull practical jokes, I am the practical joker of the team, and so now he's wondering where I'm at. So when he comes inside, we're now sitting in the living room just casually talking, and he is literally sweating and shaking because he thought a bear was going to crawl inside of there. And it wasn't until we did the review and checked out the timestamps, it was at the same time that this whole scenario had happened.
And do I have just a quick moment to explain about this bear?
Absolutely, please do.
Okay, so anyway, after Corey says this, the lady that I could actually call her by name. Her name's Ivy. She was on our show that we did, and she's quite comfortable with talking about these things. But
amazing person,
amazing woman. She says, "Well, maybe that was Teddy." And I said, "What do you mean, Teddy?" And she said, "Well, we have a bear spirit on the property." And so I said, "Well, could you explain to me, and what's going on?" Well, every year on their reserve, there's a family that is asked to kill a bear, because otherwise you're not allowed to kill bears. They're protected. But every year they're allowed to kill a bear, and their family was asked if they would like to do the honor of killing the bear for their reservation. And so anyway, they knew where this bear migration, path was, so they kept putting food out there so the bears would stop. And eventually they noticed that one was always stopping, and they nicknamed him Teddy. And so anyway, they thought to do it's quite an honor to actually kill the bear. So they, the husband at the time, he asked Ivy, I really think that you should kill Teddy. So anyway, the next day they're going to go out, and she's excited about it. And that night she had a dream that Teddy came to her and said, he spoke to her in perfect English and said, "Why do you want to kill me? I've done nothing to you." And so in the morning they woke up, and she's like, I can't go out and kill Teddy. So anyway, they thought, you know what, we'll do it tomorrow, but we're going to ask our oldest son if he wants to do the honor. So anyway, they asked him that evening, son, would you like to go? Your mom decided that she didn't want to. She's going to let you do it. Would you like to go kill Teddy? And he was so excited about it. In the morning, he wakes up. she looks at her son, and he looks kind of sad and just down. She's like, "Aren't you excited? You get to kill your first bear." He said, "Well, no, Mom." He's like, "I had a dream last night that Teddy came to me in a dream and said, 'Why do you want to kill me? I've done nothing to you.'" So they both had the same dream. And then she said, "He also might be hanging around because he's still in the house." And so I said, "Could you please explain that to me?" Well, she had a deep freeze in the kitchen, and the bear was still in the deep freeze. So they harvested the medicinal things for the tribe and for the elders and for the shamans. And then they had the other, pieces of the bear still in the freezer. So, I don't know. I mean, like, again, with the history and the stories, you can put it together, and I just call it the spirit of Teddy.
That's a powerful story, but it does show that, the spirits of animals can still hang around in a haunted scenario as well.
I have.
Oh, absolutely. We have an amazing piece of evidence of the ghost kitty.
I see your ghost kitty, and I can raise you ghost pigs. I caught pigs.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
See, that's exciting because when we were on investigation, we heard a cat come through an SB11 clear as day. And, I was with another lady that we had invited to come with us on investigation. And, we were so silly. We were standing there pretending to pet a cat and, "Oh, hi, kitty, kitty." And, it was crazy. I'd never heard an animal come through an SB11 before. It was crazy.
Mine was actually, I caught an EVP. I was going through Barkerville, just walking through there alone. Just had my audio recorder going, and I walked by the old slaughterhouse area of the ghost town. And listening back, I heard pigs clear as day.
Oh, nice.
I should find that clip for you.
So when you get something like that, that's something out of the ordinary, because you're expecting a male voice, a female voice, or maybe a child's voice, and you get something like a pig or a bear or ducks or dogs or cats, whatever they are, does that just throw a wrench into the investigation, Matt? Because you're not prepared for something like that, and it adds an entirely different element to what we are trying to solve or not solve for evidence?
Actually, I don't really think so. It may change the gears the way you approach, but as far as the actual investigation, no, because, we're all energy, and we all... in that aspect, as far as the actual physical investigation, you were doing the investigation one way to begin with when you got that evidence. I'm not going to switch gears because I may ruin that opportunity to get more evidence and be able to carry on that conversation. But, as far as the the mannerisms might change.
That's the ghost kitty.
Yeah, you might, start petting or, making silly calls in the dark, here, kitty, 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 or, Suey, or, whatever it may be. But yeah, the approach may change, but the overall mentality and the technique wouldn't.
Here's another great example of animals and Saskatchewan. My brother is a farmer out here, and a friend of his actually was in the field one day, and where we live, it's extremely flat, so you can see for miles and miles, and there's always the proverbial, you can watch your dog run away for half an hour, which is probably almost accurate where we are.
An hour and a half.
Yeah, and he was out in his tractor, and he was looking across kind of at the horizon and saw a bunch of dust, and as he's getting closer, he's still in the tractor, so, moving fairly slowly, he realizes that what he's seeing is actually bison, like a huge group of buffalo bison in the field. And at first he's like, well, he's kind of trying to think, why he's seeing this, and thinking, oh, I've heard stories about how there's some wild bison around that they released, but, looking back now, it wasn't this area that they did that. But, again, Regina is called, the nickname of Regina is called Pile of Bones, because in, basically the center of the Regina area was actually filled with bison carcasses and bones. And so we had a ton of them around here, but they were almost hunted to extinction at one point. And so, sorry to get back on track, just kind of filling a bit of history in, but he sees this, huge, herd of buffalo, and he keeps getting closer and closer, and all of a sudden it just kind of vanishes. But there's a few, tiny little smidgens of hills, and he thought maybe they went down behind a hill or something, that it was an optical illusion. So anyway, he gets to his truck and he drives out to that area to look for them. Can't see them anywhere. He gets to this exact spot where he knows it'll be, because, farmers know their land and they know where something is on their land just by looking across the land. And, the dirt was completely undisturbed. There was absolutely nothing there. And this is somebody who I would say would be, I've known him for a very long time, very, skeptic, and it just, kind of shook. So, again, it probably was a residual. And, but yeah, really kind of a neat story for this area.
I've got a question for you. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I often like to ask fellow ghost hunters this. Tell me, or us, one of your most, I don't want to use the word disturbing, but maybe scariest paranormal encounter while investigating.
I'll let you go.
Oh, gee. I think it's kind of like the first, the first time you're touched by something that you do not see. It's startling, but I do get asked that question, when I do other interviews, and have had other people ask me this all the time. I've never really got disturbed or upset, per se. It's more like being just kind of startled, whether it's out of the corner of my eye, see something standing there, or hear footsteps, right behind me. It might startle me at first, but usually I'm the first to, let's grab a camera, let's go. I haven't personally encountered anything that has made me feel like my life was in danger, anything terrifying.
I don't sound comical or anything, but the living scared me more. But
I would agree with that.
Yeah. But yeah, I really can't. I'm really trying to think back. Because I am a practitioner, so I think I've seen more scarier things on that end of the spectrum than I have on a ghost hunt. So I really can't give the on the definition side of scary, but I really can't come up with anything that's actually startled me too much, other than the fact, I will have to state one thing is, and I'm going to bring up Ninette again, when I was on the third floor. At the time, I'm like, okay, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I'm getting ready to walk away. I pick up my little rover as I'm walking away in the pitch black night, kind of feeling along the wall because I got my arms full. Can't use the IR or anything. So I'm kind of walking along trying to feel, and I decided, oh, wait, let me stop and open up the iPad and let me see if any of the images are showing up. So I opened it up, and there was a blatant picture of something that was standing right behind me. It was a full-body apparition. Okay, so that does, I'm not going to lie, that does throw some chills up your spine when you're standing in the dark, wondering, is it still standing right behind me? So, but that's the only thing I can really come up with.
Physically, I would say we've encountered ticks, like wood ticks. I mean, that was out of Cowsis. I mean, and I'm saying it's not like just 1 or 2 ticks. I'm saying like
38.
Yeah, I think Corey had at least 38 on him at one time. Just being out in the grass out there, there was like a huge tick infestation. So, yeah, that kind of disturbed me when I looked down and saw like, you know, multiple bugs sucking my blood.
Or the raccoons that chased you and Corey out of the old shed.
We didn't actually see the raccoons. We just heard them. But it still scared us out of there.
I don't know. Y'all invented teleportation. You were there, then you're gone.
Of course. And then, of course, the -40 investigation. And, I mean, it in Canada, it is, don't get me wrong, there's other states where it's extreme too, but, I mean, we live in such an extreme climate, and we do investigate year-round, although wintertime it does slow down. But if we can get into a location and we only have a very limited amount of time, I mean, we make do. We investigated in -40. Did our batteries drain really quickly? Yeah. Did we freeze and almost feel like we had frostbite? Yeah. We had a room set up with heaters so we could go out in 30-minute intervals to do, investigation. Did we catch some amazing evidence? Absolutely. So, I mean, those things, when you have to think about your physical body, when you're investigating, yeah, that can be a little bit tough and scary at times.
I would agree with the wildlife. We were doing an investigation last summer where we thought we saw like shadow people in the bush, so we turned on the thermal, and it was a mama bear and 2 cubs, so we left quite fast.
Holy cow.
Grizzly territory.
Yeah. We just have the little black bears. Well, they're not really little, but yeah, you guys have grizzlies. We don't here.
Do you guys work with other teams ever?
Yes, we do. Like we have our show on Access Communications called Past. There's another team on Access as well called Knights of the Dark. We haven't yet worked with them, but hopefully here in the near future we do. We've worked with Dark Watch, Paranormal out of Indian Head. Or no. Oh, yeah, they are out of Cookhouse. I'm sorry. So Dark Watch, Mike Lee is the lead investigator for that team. We have, the teams, and we also invite other friends to go on investigation. We have a couple of go-to people that we have asked more times than not because they actually were amazing investigators. But yeah, like we do try to work with other teams and we learn from each other. It's great. I mean, they might be doing something that, we're not really, something that we wouldn't do personally. But, I mean, there's no judgment there.
Like going back to what you said, respect.
Yeah, again, it is a total respect thing. I mean, I totally welcome it. I'd love to work with more teams in the future. And it just brings a whole different, you might just, even if you're with that team all night, you only learn one thing. Well, I mean, that's amazing. It's
well, there's
cool
an
to
open
see
door. There's an open door for you guys in BC if you want to come investigate with us.
Absolutely.
From the truck.
Well, a good weekend for that would be for you guys to get away is on September 29th to October 1st. We will be hosting the first annual Spaced Out Radio Caribou Paracon.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so we're going to be having speakers from all over BC. We got a couple of coming out of the United States to come up here into central British Columbia to investigate and speak at the Paracon. We're going to have 2 different ghost hunts at 2 different locations. So it might be something where if you guys need a little bit of a weekend getaway, that BC is the place to come.
Well, because we are, this is what we both do as our passion in our downtime. Date night is investigation. weekends away are investigation. So that would fit in perfectly. You know, and I'm saying that really lightheartedly because we absolutely love it, and it's, you know, something that we enjoy doing together. And yeah, that sounds amazing. Definitely have to get out to BC.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys find that there are politics amongst groups in your neck of the woods?
Well, I mean, there's always going to be politics, and no matter what, you know, yeah, I'm afraid that no matter what type of group, I'm a member of several other groups, you know, outside well, I guess technically it would be paranormal, and there's politics in that as well. So I've just come to grips with there's going to be no escaping it. But I noticed around here, just from what we've encountered, it really doesn't seem to be that much on the politics side. You've got a few that want self-gain, and you're always going to have that. You know, they want the spotlight on themselves, and
ego. Yeah,
the ego. Actually, I also found an old paper I did from 2004 on the ego and how it can be, how it can destroy oneself from the inside out, but it could also be your strength. But yeah, and there tends to be people that let it completely conquer them.
I mean, there's times that, you know, I have to admit personally that, you know, there's some locations that, you know, if another group had gotten in that we never got to go in for whatever reason, yeah, I might be a tad jealous, but it's just because I really wanted to get into that location.
But what's the politics of it? I guess I would state on the politics side, yes, there are some cases. I can think of a couple of cases where politics at play, where they wanted to have a gaining situation. But, you know, like I said, being a member of multiple groups, it just seems like it's the norm. The larger a society or a community becomes, the more politics will emerge. It's, you know, rear its ugly head.
I mean, for the most part... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, you know, for the most part, I totally believe in helping each other out. You know, if another group came to us and said, hey, you know, could we borrow this piece of equipment? Absolutely. Yeah. You know, or would you join us on location because we're down like 2 investigators? And we've done that as well as a group. We've been down investigators. We'll invite people from other teams. But definitely, you know, supporting each other because there is, you know, so few of us here. I totally believe that's important. So.
Do you find there's like a kind of like a para-turf war in your area? There's a little bit out here.
Not as much here. It's like, you know, Knights of the Dark are up north. You know, we're down here. You got Dark Watch, but, you know, Knights of the Dark could contact us today and say, hey, we need help with something, or hey, you got anything you want us to help you with. It's that open line communication. Everybody's talking to each other. Dark Watch has come on multiple investigations. We've gone to their investigations.
We share technologies and ideas.
Yeah, so it's pretty much an open door out here. It seems to be more of a friendlier atmosphere.
Ego plays such a big part of the paranormal, and listening to your area, especially the way you're teaming up with other teams, it doesn't seem to be that effective where you are. Do you think it's because, you know, let's face it, the prairie people are known to be good people. Okay, and for most people out there, it is a stereotype, but for the most part, I would say that is very true in all the prairie people that I have come across over my years living in British Columbia. Now, if you live in the lower mainland of British Columbia, there's a lot more ego, there's a lot more attitude. You know, everybody thinks their crap doesn't stink. You know, do you think that maybe it's because of the location where you are that there isn't that real strong polarizing ego that kind of keeps the field from succeeding and keeps it, I don't want to say regressing, but keeps the entire field kind of stagnant in the province?
Well, I can't speak to the people, but I think if we had a lot more paranormal groups in the area, then it would start to increase on the ego side. We're better. We need this. We're going to cut your throat. You know, we're doing it right. You're doing it wrong. But because it's so few of us, we have to rely on each other, and that's, you know, it's a plus. You know, but even if one or two was to emerge up, which they will be one day, we want to keep nurturing that atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. And too, I mean, the only thing that's really ever, you know, kind of negative that's happened to us is just, you know, there's people that will, you know, say, the thing is, Regina is such a small town. Everybody knows everybody in some degree. Mm-hmm. It really is. And the thing is, you know, if someone says, oh, well, I'm on the past team, and, you know, I'm doing this, I'm on the past team, and, you know, then we hear, like, oh, I met such and such, and, oh, they're on your team, and, no, they're not. We only have 5 members, and it's only these 5 members. Or, you know, they'll say that, you know, I mean, I guess, you know, just recently somebody had, you know, tried to get into a location and said that they were with past, and they weren't. And so, I mean, at least for the most part, we end up finding out who these people are because somebody knows somebody else who said, oh, my friend tried to get in there and said they were on the past team. So, I mean, that's kind of the only negative thing that's really happened.
Well, no, and to go along the ego side, and, you know, unfortunately, jealousy plays a part of that. Mm-hmm. You know, and so we were trying to get into a location, and I don't want to name names. I'm not going to, because that just ropes me into their world. But we found out somebody else went, and pretty much so we had everything lined up to go do the investigation, but we ended up losing it because another group decided to go in and badmouth us. So we're trying to patch things up, and so we can go in, which is, you know, working out for us, because I'm a firm believer what goes around comes around, and when it did, you know, to this other group. And so their credibility was shaken up, you know, in the long run. You know, we didn't have to do anything. We didn't even say anything. We just bowed down and moved on and went to our next location. But after over a year, their credibility was shaken up by some things they also did, but ended up going to the limelight. And now, you know, we come out stronger.
I've noticed it too, even on a media side, you know, where I've had people come up and say they're with Spaced Out Radio. I recently had to politely, or I should say very impolitely, tell a person to back up and get out of our way, not because of ego, but because this person wanted to be involved with us so bad that he thought he would go around trying to book guests for us by saying he was associated with us.
We've had that happen.
Yeah. Well, he made the mistake. I have a very private contract with Ron Bumblefoot THAL, our music man, who provides all of our music. And Ron is a very famous musician, playing in Guns N' Roses for 9 years, with Art of Anarchy, other bands, and a solo career. And this person actually went as far as to contact him, asking him if he would like to be a guest on my show.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, that's how lack of a better term, idiotic things can be behind the scenes. Whether they're trying to book a guest, whether they are trying to be a part of your team because your team is quite popular in the province of Saskatchewan, the team Saskatchewan Past. I mean, it's dangerous because reputation is just so fragile in anything you do in this field. What's your thoughts?
Especially in this field. I mean, reputation is everything. If people are inviting you into their homes and their businesses and everything, and if they get like even a sniff of negativity from some other third party, right away they get cold feet and they're like, nope.
Well, to back up what you're saying, and with the paranormal teams, you have to protect, and you can't allow someone to throw mud on your windows, I guess you'd say, because everybody else is going to see the stains. But we have, when we're out in the open like this, like in your case and our case, and most teams, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. I used to be in music myself, and I used to be very selective over some bad experiences over people that would work with me on the team, because it only takes that one occurrence, someone to speak on your behalf that was not supposed to, and it can ruin everything for you.
And on that note, we are going to step away for our final break of the night. We are talking with Allison and Matt from Saskatchewan Past. That's Paranormal and Supernatural team. We're going to learn more about Past in hour number 3. I'm also joined by Mike Morin from the Canadian Paranormal Society. I want to flick your nose, by the way.
I want to fight you if you flick my nose.
Let's do this. Let's drop the gloves and go. I mean, this is a Canadian show. Goes to the Great White North. We might as well have a hockey fight while we're here. Yeah, and here we got 2 Regina Pats fans going on here. So
wait, New Orleans Saints or the Rough Riders?
We're at a commercial, man. He has to wait until after.
Damn it. Okay.
Absolutely. You're listening to Space Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back right after this.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories. From alien encounters to the latest conspiracies, you won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio Live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Thank you so much for choosing us for your listening ears. Tomorrow night on the show, Jamie Sexton is going to join us out of Las Vegas. He's in the entertainment industry. He has a lot of musical friends. They hear a lot of incredible conspiratorial type stories. Jamie from Rebel Planet News is going to join us 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE Rock the 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia. We are also live in New Orleans on 107.7 FM, the United Public Radio Network, and they are broadcast in over 160 countries around the world. Live in Las Vegas on Renegade Talk Radio. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ectomomania is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets it every single night right here on the mighty SOR. If you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for only $5 a month. You can also head to patreon.com and become one of the Space Out Radio patrons for as low as $1. Check out the swag we are giving away today. Tonight we are talking paranormal in our brand new feature on this show that'll happen the third Wednesday of every month called Ghosts of the Great White North. I am joined by Mike Morin from the Canadian Paranormal Society. He is going to be my co-host during this event as we interview ghost hunters from across Canada, because I know a lot of our American listeners have come up to me and said, we want to hear some ghost stories out of Canada. We never hear them. So that's what we're doing for you, the listener. So tonight, out of Saskatchewan, members of PAST, Allison and Matt, which is out of Saskatchewan, right in the heart of the prairies. Regina, to be exact. You have to wear a lot of green in that area. So, welcome back, Allison and Matt.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Matt, I do have a question. Considering you're from the South, do you wear a lot of green now? Have you adjusted to 3 downs instead of 4 downs in football?
I don't know. Well, let's just put it this way. My closet looks like a priest lives here. I wear all black all the time. I have to admit, I've got the writer's fever. I'm not going to put a watermelon on my head, but, I do have writer's fever.
And we're talking about the Saskatchewan Roughriders of the Canadian Football League. They are an amazing, amazing bunch of fans, because literally people will travel 4, 5, 6 hours just to get to a football game in Regina. They are crazy. The American equivalent, just so you know, if you're in an NFL fan, would be the equivalent of the Green Bay Packers, where their fans just trickle in from absolutely everywhere. They don't care how long they have to drive to get to a game. They are there, and it's a packed house every time.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm sure Allison is a big Riders fan. And one of my listeners, Ron Moniak, he's from Saskatchewan as well. He actually sent me one of your Saskatchewan Roughriders Green Fist drinking or bottle holders. So I have it within reach of me right here, because he knows I'm a BC Lions fan, and he had to decorate Uncle Jimbo's cabin with some Rider Green. So I do have some Rider Green right beside me.
Actually, our team lead, Corey, lives super close to stadium, and he is probably the biggest fan of the Riders. And on a lot of investigations, he'll wear his 13th man jersey. It's kind of his signature clothing for investigations.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Saskatchewan, because it is a very intriguing and loyal place to everybody. Like you said, everybody seems to know everybody in the province. I believe there's only maybe 1 million, maybe 1.5 million people in the entire province. It's not a large population, but loyal as loyal can be to their football teams, their hockey teams, a proud tradition of the Canadian military in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and they're proud farmers as well. It's a hard-working province for everybody there. Tell us a little bit about PAST and how PAST was organized. Allison?
Well, there's only one actually original member who formed the PAST team, who is Kelsey Brown, and she's still on the team. There was, I think, 2 or 3 of them at the time. Taylor Hook, he was the team lead at the time, had to step back and go to school, and he just didn't have the time that he wanted to spend with the team anymore. So they had actually invited Corey Nagy to be on the team, and he decided to take over the reins as our team lead. So basically I came onto the team with the Ghost Stamp. I had developed it. I needed a team to basically step up and help me, research with it and see if this was something that was, going to be legitimately used in investigation. And so that's how I ended up on the team. And then, of course, my relationship with Matt and his many talents, everybody wanted him to be on the team as well. I mean, he was basically on the team before he even moved here, helping out with, web design, swag, just knowledge, and, he was helping out before he even, crossed the border. And so he was on the team. We also were needing another person to be on the team as well, and it happened that we had somebody on one of our paranormal investigations, and she was also has First Nations background as well. So we thought that kind of helped to round out the team a little bit, because none of us had the First Nations background, and we do encounter those situations. So that's kind of how the team, the team that is now existing, that's how that formed. And how you're saying, how everyone gets behind the riders, we feel that as a team here. We have a ton of support from fans, ton of support from, the community. Most of the time, if we want to get in a place, and that's the thing, because it is so small, we just basically reach out for connections. So we say, we want to get into, this cathedral. Does anybody know who owns this cathedral? Or does anybody know, does anybody have any, connections to this place? And it's always through word of mouth that we end up landing these locations. So I guess, again, with having a small community, that's kind of the advantages of that.
So with PAST, people have always seemed to generate a lot of interest in what you guys are doing. And locally, it's actually led the local television station to actually pick up episodes of what your investigations are like. What was that like when you guys got approached to maybe bring this on to the television market locally?
Well, there was a level of excitement and, some of the team members, because ultimately you want to not only get the story from the paranormal entities there, but you want to be able to share this story. And we had some things on YouTube, and but this gave us the opportunity to pretty much just put raw footage up there. I mean, in this cases, we put evidence up there that we're not 100% certain, so we just literally tell the audience, you decide, and we get messages all the time, I think it's this, or, I think it's that. Ultimately, it's the individual's got to reach that conclusion, but, it's exciting, it's fun, it's, but in the end, it actually, to be quite honest, it challenges us to become better.
Mm-hmm.
Do you enjoy the television experience? And, you're kind of mini celebrities walking around town, going out for dinner, or maybe a night out for drinks or bowling or something along those lines. Do you like that celebrity status that you're probably gaining in the community?
I've had it a couple times where someone's like, oh, you look familiar. Where do I know you from? And it's funny because it's such a small town, so right away you think, oh, I've, met you through another person at some point. But, there's a couple times like, oh, I've seen your show, or I really enjoy your show. But, other than that, not really, we don't really have any, celebrity status, I would say, just because we are more of a public, we have more of a public presence. I think it does, it gives us a bit more credibility to, well, not credibility is not the word I was going to say, but maybe that little bit more of, they feel a little bit more comfortable for us coming in because, they've seen what we do. We put it out there. We are backed by the Access 7 channel and Access as a whole. So, even to the point of our insurance is through them, so we're fully insured. So yeah, there's a lot of benefit that comes along with the show, and I 100% agree with Matt that it makes us strive to do better, to film better, to constantly come up with new ideas and keep that interest as well in what we're doing.
Very understandable. And how has it improved your game and what you have to do, knowing that the camera going onto television is right there? And how much is scripted compared to just rolling live to tape?
Well, literally nothing is scripted. The only thing, we just make sure that we don't have to hit a censor button. That's the only thing, which has happened quite a few times. But as far as, it is about as raw as we can possibly make it. We want them to feel like they're on the investigation with us. We do our own filming. If we have any remote doubt in the evidence, we don't put it in the show, unless it's the case that we feel like we want them to decide. But there's literally no scripting, no nothing. It is very, very raw. Knights of the Dark has their show also, and I can't speak on their behalf. I like their show as well. It's very along the same lines. We're pretty much just filming what we do without any type of, oh, this looks like it would be a better angle, and it's none of this, oh, wait, can you do that again? No, it's pretty much so what it is, what we're doing is what you see.
We have no idea how an episode is going to turn out. We have no idea. We go in there, we do our research, and when it comes down to editing it into a show, if we decide to make this investigation a show, that's kind of when, we can piece together those, the stories and piece together the interviews and use evidence to maybe back up some of what we've caught in an interview or what we found out in the history, but yeah, absolutely nothing scripted or anything planned out.
No.
Do you find, though, that it has helped add to the credibility of the group, or do you find that it has, maybe given you more opportunities that you wouldn't have investigated or had the opportunity to investigate in the past?
Yeah, I would say so. The credibility portion, because they can see that we're just real people. Each of us have our own jobs, our own lives, and this isn't our livelihood by no means. We don't get paid to do it. We don't get paid to do investigations. We're just common folks doing investigations and trying to better ourselves and get answers.
What would you say would be your favorite investigation you guys have done, or your favorite episode you've put together? Most memorable, that's what I'm saying.
For me, I'm going to say German Club and Ninette episode. Although, I'm going to back up. When she was talking about the paranormal sleepovers we used to do, there was a person from Access 7. His name is Andy, and Access volunteered him to go for Halloween, to go to haunted houses and everything. So I came up with the idea, and I said, well, why don't I take you on an investigation? And, for the Halloween episode. And so I took him to one of our old faithful spots that they're comfortable with this showing up and whatnot. And there was some paranormal hits, but there was a section that I couldn't follow him. And the rooms are joined together by like a dividing door. And he starts walking through it. So I walked down the hallway, because it's supposed to be about him, and I just turned the camera. But as I'm walking around the corner, he doesn't realize I'm doing this, and all he sees is a black mass stepping around the corner, and he let out a shriek that is the highlight of that episode, because we had to stick it in. But I have to say that's one of my favorites, because it was just, it wasn't us, it was the people doing the sleepovers.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see how they do their investigations, and, just anybody off the street, we're there to help them, but, pretty much we give them the equipment, give them the guidance, but we let them do it. But, and then Ninette I liked because the history and the evidence behind it, and the shenanigans that went on behind the scenes, which I put in the episode as well. I mean, there's a scene where Corey decided to test one of the remote cameras and decided to dance in front of it. Of course I'm going to stick it in a scene with some nice music in the background. And then I'm going to say the German Club, because when we got a full-body apparition, and the best thing of that is a former member of the team, excuse me, was standing there, and he's telling Corey, I just feel like something's watching us. And he's pretty much telling him, just shut up. Nothing's here. Now, I don't know, I feel like something's watching us. And when they pan the camera, there's a woman standing in a doorway. And it was little hits like that throughout the entire time. But those mine are probably my favorite ones. What about yours?
Definitely the milestone episode when we took the people for the paranormal sleepovers. Again, it was just, amazing groups of people that came through. And, we not only did we catch some, really good evidence, one of which was a whistling noise. This entity, spirit, likes to whistle, and they'd whistle this tune, and it would come through, and it actually had come through a couple times when we'd been up there, so we had that validation. Again, Ninette was amazing, and, I really loved, it was a short episode out at Cowessess First Nation, but the lady out there, Ivy, I feel like I still have a huge connection with her, and just being in like one of the most beautiful places in Saskatchewan. It's absolutely gorgeous because it's on a reserve, so for the most part the land is untouched, and her and her husband showing us around to these sacred places and sites, and just the energy out there was just over the top amazing, and I absolutely loved being out there. So you take from every investigation, there always seems to be some type of a memorable moment, whether it's paranormal or not. But yeah, those are my top picks anyway.
Investigator to investigator, what are paranormal no-nos? Like when you go into investigations, like kiboshing. Example, like Ouija board? Do you guys... that sort of stuff?
I'm not a fan of Ouija boards. It has been pulled out, but I'm not a huge fan of it. I'll only allow them to pull it out if I can do a proper closing of it. But I'm not a huge fan of them. Things like that are being disrespectful. Coming in like that's your house. I wouldn't want somebody doing that to my house.
To me, it's some investigators think that they're house cleaners of spirits, and that just completely rubs me the wrong way. I'd always give this analogy to people that, I pick a street or a house on the street, and I walk in there and go up to the person in the house and say, you know what, it's time to pack your bags, get the hell out. They'd look at you like you were, smoking something, like, what? You're just going to tell me to get out of my house? And, maybe it's a personal thing, but I kind of, when I go into a location like that, I treat it like I'm going into someone else's house, and I have that respect. And I think there's, some investigators out there who have no respect for that, or they think that they can get rid of what's ever there. If we ever investigate somebody's place and they say to us, okay, well, what do I do now? I really want to, get rid of this. We will, we have other people and, a couple people on the team who can, counsel them on what they could possibly do, but we'd never guarantee that we could actually remove spirit from a location. I just don't feel it's our place. So those are some no-nos. Basically etiquette when you're investigating, you're doing an EVP session, you're, not trying to talk over each other, you're giving each other space and time. Helping out, bringing equipment into location and breaking everything down and leaving for the night, not leaving like one or two people to do everything. Again, that's the whole respecting of your team members. What else? I can't.
Well, let me ask this then, Allison and Matt from Saskatchewan Past. Do you prefer then to deal with residential properties, or do you prefer maybe city-type properties like museums or reservations or local businesses? Maybe there's an old tavern that's haunted or an old hotel that's haunted. What do you prefer to investigate and why?
Well, we're fanatics over history. All of us are. It doesn't matter if it's a home and it turns out that X amount of generations have been there and we find out this long, lengthy history. It holds the same weight as walking into a huge haunted hotel with the fourth floor is burnt down and someone jumped out the window and all these different things. Is the history is what really, really appeals to all of us.
So do you prefer to help cleanse a residence or maybe help a family deal with a residence? Is that up your alley then, Allison? Or is that something that, you prefer to work on more of a historic way because you're a fan of history, so you tend to maybe clamor towards maybe government buildings, museums, etc.?
Personally, I've done more public places than I've done residence, and but I like that personal connection with someone's personal home. I like to be able to help people understand a bit more about what may be happening at their place. Our job is to communicate ultimately. So if we are somewhat able to open those lines of communication, it's going to benefit them. I'm always wanting to help people, whether it's, their personal business or whether it is their home. So I guess it depends on where I am, and I just switch gears for the most part. I guess when you're in a residential situation, it's a bit more personal in that respect, and spirit could be a lot more personal to that person that that is in that's living in that house. So you just kind of have to switch gears a different way.
Yeah, it's nice when you go into on a residence because you're dealing with a one-to-one basis and you feel like you're helping this individual.
Mm-hmm.
However, like Ninette, it was a huge building and location, but we were still dealing with one individual. It's really 6 one way, half a dozen the other with us.
Mm-hmm.
Because both of them have their pros, and of course, both of them have their cons. But we do like the residentials. We've done a couple locations where the residentials, but it turned out they weren't haunted. So there was nothing paranormal there, but still, we did a thorough investigation.
Have you guys ever done an antique store where random things are that could have residual energy on them?
Are we still on?
Yeah, have any of you? No, has anybody ever done an antique store? Can you hear us?
We're still on.
Yeah. Why can they not hear us? Why can they? I think we're having more technical difficulties here in regards to the place here. Our Skype is acting up here. I don't know what's going on, but we're going to try and call them right back here and get them back on. You gotta love these computer moments. All of a sudden they couldn't hear us. Maybe they put us on mute. Maybe they just couldn't hear what we were doing. We're going to try and call them right back and finish off this episode strong here. Because, that's what we like to do on this part. So, let's just try and see if we can get this going here. Again, as our guests, Allison and Matt from Saskatchewan Past, are with us tonight. The phone lines seem to not be working. We'll blame Skype for that because, what's a night without a Skype issue? What's with a night without Skype problems? And hell, the way the last couple nights have been, seriously, what are we supposed to do? It's just the way it goes. I hope their battery didn't die. Because, let's face it, they are in the prairies. They should be getting lots of signal there because there's no mountains blocking anything. Just the way it goes. So, well, we're getting voicemail on this end. Mike, what do you think so far in regards to a paranormal experience? Like, do you prefer the history? Do you prefer dealing with residential, or do you prefer going into like museums and other haunted areas, maybe finding like an old ghost town like Barkerville, or maybe an old boat or something along those lines to investigate? What do you think?
Done the boats, done the ghost towns, done the museums. I prefer residentials.
Why do you prefer residentials?
It's controlled environments, a lot smaller, and a lot of times you don't know. It's like rolling the dice. When you go to the more famous locations, you kind of have half a clue of what might happen. Basically, when you go to residentials, it's blind, and you're just going off client encounters.
So when you're dealing with a residential and you have a family in the home who is struggling to figure out what is going on, what do you look for in a residential?
We look for validity. We interview the client. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us now? There. I think that one. I think that one might have been on your end, because we were hearing you. We're like, hello.
Your voicemail.
Hello. And then we called back and got your voicemail twice.
Oh. Yeah, we couldn't hear you guys anymore.
Weird.
We'll blame SaskTel on that.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, like I was saying, in the prairies, you should be getting signal from everywhere, considering there's no mountains.
Oh yeah, and we're in like the proverbial void of technology.
Yeah, our internet here is 2 cups and a string. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty much same as where I am here. But getting back to what I was asking you about in regards to residential, museums, and businesses, you prefer the history of everything. And let's face it, getting into a museum or some sort of public landmark, that's always an easy place to get into for the most part. But when it comes to, say, private businesses or residential areas, Allison, do you feel that there is some sort of different type of investigation that you have to conduct, considering that you're dealing literally with people's lives at this point?
Absolutely. There's been situations and people they're absolutely so terrified. And you have to get them to that point where, because at that point they're fueling it. So, part of what we do is to try to, bring them down a few notches to, you're never going to take away that fear fully, but at least trying not to fuel it as much. It definitely is very much more emotional when it's a private residence involved. And you really have to, you really have to be more. I mean, we always are respectful, and we always, are listening to our client, but yeah, definitely with the residential, especially if there's kids involved. I mean, if someone phones us and says, my son is being attacked at night by something we don't know, guaranteed top priority, and somebody will be there the next day. We will drop everything and get somebody out there. So, yeah, definitely. I mean, for investigating, like for ease of investigation, definitely businesses. Usually the bigger the area, the ease of it, it's a little bit easier to. But we do have the command center. Matt had actually fashioned, how big is that? 6x12? 6x12 trailer, enclosed trailer into our command center. So the nice part about that is if we are doing residential or a smaller building, we can bring that, and we're also able to leave that building and have, far less contamination than if we were trying to do an investigation and all of us being in the house at the same time. So that's kind of nice. But yeah, ease of investigation. And I mean, of course, there's the proverbial bucket list of places you want to go to. And there's places we know that, we've been wanting to get into, been trying to work towards getting into, but, it'll probably never happen, but, here's hoping. But.
I have a question coming from Deb at hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. And Matt, we can ask or start with you on this one. And Deb is asking, have you ever had a ghost that didn't get along with you? And if so, how did you deal with it?
I'm trying to actually come up with an example, but I'm having a hard time remembering any type of case where that happened. Honestly, I can't think of anything. No, I know personally I've never had a situation like that. The only occurrence I can probably remotely grab at is, not everything's a ghost. Sometimes it's manifested, by the individuals. And that's the only time I think I'd ever seen anything that was aggressive. It actually wasn't a spirit. It was a manifested spirit, where the person projects the energy and manifests, But I've never had a case where I've run into a ghost that was...
Well, actually, the funny thing about that is when we were at Ninette on the 3rd floor, and Matt and I went up initially, I was helping him, and, usually we have at least 2 cameras on at all times, and I'm filming him, and, I just got this feeling of, we don't really know if we like you here, but we like him here. It was just this gut feeling, like you're in a room and, everyone's looking at you like, that whole, that Mean Girls, you can't sit at our table. It's like they didn't really care for me being there, but they were really comfortable with Matt, and they were kind of intrigued by him. And, again, that's just the feeling I got. So I left, and after I left, and everything happened. So, again, you kind of have to go with your gut instinct on that. And personally, I don't draw conclusions, like if I'm touched or if I hear a voice or, scratched or anything like that. I don't generally draw conclusions that, this entity or spirit doesn't want me here. Again, it's communication. It's maybe the only way that they can communicate with me. I hear a growl come through the SB11. I'm not going to immediately think it's like a demon. I'm usually thinking, well, they're trying to communicate, but for whatever reason, it's just not coming through properly, and take it home, review it. Could have been someone saying, hey, how's it going?
There's a lot of situations when it comes to ghost hunting on how to use the type of technique at that particular time. You always got to be on the move. We had that exact same situation tonight when we were doing our walkthrough before we head out to the museum and actually investigate tomorrow. On the museum line, they have this giant, probably 30, 40 yard long, maybe longer, 50, 60 yard long Clydesdale barn. And that Clydesdale barn has a spirit in it of a man. They call him the Shadow Man because he literally walks the barn every single night. And him and I were kind of chatting today, but he didn't like Mike being there. He didn't like Mike being there, and we later found out by asking the type of questions, because you have to form your questions to try and figure out that answer, that it was because he didn't like Mike having recording equipment with.
Yeah, I had my GoPro. I had my GoPro and my audio recorder hooked up, and I was recording our walkthrough, and Dave asking questions to whomever was in the barn. I felt that I needed to leave. I didn't feel welcomed there. Dave threw a few questions out to the K2, and he bluntly asked, do you have a problem with Mike's gear? And then it hit. It hit to a yellow. Wow. Then I turned it off, it was all good. It's kind of weird.
And, I don't know if, just based on what I've experienced, I find, on investigations, sometimes it seems like on every investigation, Spirit generally picks, 1 or 2 people that they really enjoy and they really like, and it seems like those people are getting far more interaction. There's some people on the team who just generally get far more interaction, one of which is Matt. They just always seem to be really drawn to him and just kind of intrigued by him. I'm finding now more that I'm being a little bit more open on investigation. I say that loosely, but I still am, guarded in a way, but, a little bit more open to things. I am getting more interaction. But yeah, generally they do kind of pick who they choose to communicate with.
One of the things I don't think a lot of our American listeners understand about Canada is that literally 90% of our population lives within 100 kilometers or 62 miles from the border. That leaves a lot of virgin, uncharted territory. And the further you head north, the further more you're going to find ghost towns, you're going to find rundown shanty-like buildings, old farms that haven't been, used, cabins that are haunted. In British Columbia, we have a lot of mining and logging camps from the 1800s, early 1900s that have been abandoned for well over a century. Mm-hmm. This is like paranormal gold up here.
Absolutely, and I keep going north, further and further.
Do you find that in Saskatchewan there are so many, maybe within an hour to 2 hours of Regina, that you were finding so many investigative or potential investigative sites that have never, ever been investigated?
Well, yeah, and the thing is because there hasn't been a lot of investigation going on in Saskatchewan for, a very long time, and also because we do, live closer to the city centers, some teams aren't able to go out 2, 3, 4 hours because of finances and time and that as well. So, yeah, there's another location in North Battleford that we would really be interested in going to, and you hear these stories. And again, with so much land, Saskatchewan is twice the size of Texas. You tell somebody that and they just can't wrap their head around, twice the size of Texas, and only 1.5 million people. And, having these open areas is amazing. It does open it up. Like, there has been a ton of UFO sightings, even just recently. And also, when you get into Sasquatch and Bigfoot and that as well. I don't really know anybody personally in Saskatchewan that does any cryptozoology, but we do have our stories of the Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, even the sea, the sea monsters in different lakes as well. I know in BC you guys have them as well, and I'm fascinated by it. I just haven't really had an opportunity to do any cryptozoology and don't really know where to start on that, but definitely the ghosts and definitely wanting to get into UFO more as well.
I'll make you a little jealous here. Within 8 kilometers of my home, we found 2 different size Bigfoot prints. How's that? Did we lose them on again? Did we? I hope not. Oh, there you are. There you are. You guys cut out there for a quick second.
Sorry. We're just going on about the jealousy part.
Yes, I don't blame you. And you know what? The best part about it was the 2 prints. One of our researchers who does the SOR Sightlines report on our website, Mike Schmidt, he is an avid hunter and outdoorsman, and he actually was going out hunting one day, and nature decided to call while he was driving, so he pulled off the road, quickly hops out of his vehicle, figures, well, this looks as good a place as any, just about to start the business, and he looks down, and his eyes focused, And there to his right was a 16.5 by 8-inch print in a logging road. And Mike is a big guy. He's about 5'11 and a half, probably 265 pounds. He's always in some sort of heavy outdoor boot. And this print was imprinted. It wasn't deep in the road, but it was a clean print. He put a loonie right in the middle of it and took a picture. I still have that picture on my phone. But, he jumped up and down trying to recreate some sort of print to see if it was fake. And his boots were not even leaving any type of print. That's how hard-packed the road was.
Holy.
And so we went back there. I happened to be at a Paracon speaking in Washington State when he messaged me. And coincidentally, I was having a conversation with the Bigfoot speaker for that weekend when I got the text from Mike. And so 5 days later, we made it back up to that area. Didn't find any prints along the road. I got to see where the print was. And we started investigating the forest around it. We maybe got 100, 150 feet into the forest, and that's where we came along the second print, which was about 11 inches by 5 inches. Mm-hmm. So they're here,
Well, we've also encountered the, little people, fairy, fae, little people. The First Nations people have, quite a few stories about them. Personally, we had encounters with them when we were out on Cowessess First Nation. Also, elemental spirit as well. Mm-hmm. And then again, we had the animal spirit. And so, it's out there. It's super exciting. And I really loved how, we had this interaction with the little people, seeing the lights and hearing their stories. And
we have that in my area as well. My daughter, who's 14, she is actually very, very talented when it comes to finding fairies. And sometimes, even though there's bears, cougars, wolves, hell, the moose are around, we got wolverines around this area, we got a little bit of everything around this area, she will go out in our backyard in the middle of the evening, or she'll go into the green belt behind our property, and she will actually just sit down and she'll put her hands out almost like in a meditation type pose, and she'll sit with her legs crossed, and she is adamant that fairies will come land on her hands.
That's cool. And up here, because, it's such an open area, it's so remote, we kind of get spoiled by that, being just so much more, I think, connected to the land, as compared to a lot of people in the States, because a lot of people live, close to populated areas. Here you can drive for 4 hours and literally see nothing, absolutely nothing. It does. The nice thing about, doing the paranormal research in Canada is we have that, that kind of option, and we have that we get to see some things that, other people would never be able to experience because we're in such an open area.
I have a question from Milo coming in, and Milo is asking, what is different in your opinion about elemental spirits?
Elemental spirits are, I'm trying to come up with the proper terminology, which would relate to the Fae and, different things like that, but in traditional magics, things are broken down into the elements, and each of those elements have individual entities or spirits tied to those elements, and that's where they would manifest. A lot of times they're seen visually. Now, I'm not talking about the camera orbs, but I'm talking about visually seeing orbs, being intelligent. They're not... I'm trying to be I know I'm being kind of vague on this, but they're intelligent spirits tied to specific elements, if that makes any sense. So, with the earth, air, fire, and water, and usually they're related to specific colors. So, whether or not with the Fae, and Fae has different classifications as well, but, every story begins with some foundation of truth, and whether it be a fantastical story in someone's eyes, but in someone's eyes at one time was a very truthful story. It may have got exaggerated over years, but there is a foundation of truth, which we found those evidences in Callisis.
Do you find then that, unlike a lot of other people who believe that ghosts are just ghosts, that's what the paranormal field is, do you feel that there is more under the paranormal umbrella mat, that it does connect or somehow intertwine with the Fae, with cryptids, with UFOs, with extraterrestrials?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, multidimensional beings, alternate universes, anything along those lines, even along the lines of the magics and supernatural studies that I've done over the years, it all ties in together in one shape or fashion or form. I was in Gulf Breeze. I know I'm telling on my age, but we used to race to Gulf Breeze and see the infamous Gulf Breeze sightings. It is all tied together. Now, a person saying, I see a UFO, could it be an elemental? Could it be a legitimate a phenomenon in the atmosphere? Or, there's all these different aspects, and that's what makes it paranormal. There is an underlying current that we have to look beyond than saying it's just a ghost. It could be something else completely.
Matt, I'm curious to ask you, as we only got about 2 minutes with you guys left, investigating in the United States compared to investigating Canada, any difference, or there's slight little idiosyncrasies that you've noticed?
There's slight differences. I mean, it's nothing really dramatic. The only difference is in the States, everybody seems to want to sue everybody, so you got to be twice as cautious when you're going into a location, whereas here, people are more welcoming. You still want to have your cautions, but just out of respectful nature. But down there, you have to go through a little bit more, make sure that you're legally protected and they're legally protected, and so I would say that would be the largest difference that I've noticed. I'm going to lean just toward that. Just keep it simple.
Not a problem. For anybody who wants to find out more about Saskatchewan Past, Allison, or the investigations that you and Matt do, how can people find out more information?
We have a website. It's www.pastsask, all one word, .ca. And also we have a Facebook page. If you actually put in the search for Past Sask, it should come up right away. And I mean, we're always checking our messages. We're always checking the page.
YouTube channel.
And YouTube on Access 7. If you put in Access 7, they have a YouTube channel, and the past episodes are on there, Season 1 and Season 2, and we're currently working on Season 3. And if you, also on the Facebook page, everything's linked as well to all the episodes and blogs and that. So we are a very active team. We're constantly investigating and doing things and putting stuff out there. We're also very approachable too. So if you have any basic questions or need help or anything like that, please give us a call or send us a message.
Excellent. Matt, Allison, Mike,
a lot.
Thank you so much for a very successful opener to Ghosts of the Great White North here on Spaced Out Radio. Real privilege to have you and Matt on, Allison. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Oh, and thank you.
Thank you.
It's an honor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. You guys hold on. I'm going to wrap this thing up. Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL taking us home tonight as he rocks us in and out of every single show. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Tomorrow night on the program, Jamie Sexton joins us from Las Vegas. We're talking entertainment and conspiracy. You're going to love Jamie from the brand new Rebel Planet News, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. Want to say goodnight to everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, in New Orleans on 107.7 FM, and the rest of you out there as well, especially in our chat rooms. Appreciate you taking the time. Remember, our website is spacedoutradio.com. You can head over to patreon.com and become a patron of Spaced Out Radios today. Have a good night, everyone. Mr. Bumblefoot's about to take us home.